how you fare on Sunday. You want to know, I was good enough or I wasn't good enough. You don't want to leave thinking I'm in the middle. If you look at the coaches, they didn't even know how to feel. Like, I want to be extremely upset or I want to be really happy. I don't want to be anywhere in the middle. And these games don't have any finality to them. I want to know who was the best for 3 hours, for 60 minutes of ball. And when these games end this way, you don't know that. And I feel like you look at the Carolina Panthers, who got into the playoffs at 7-8-1. They got into the playoffs because of that tie.
2 years ago.
2014. Yep. They got into the playoffs because of that tie. So there's another team who's won as many games as you won, but because you weren't bad enough or good enough on the day, you get this eke into the playoffs. I don't like it. I think players don't like it. They want to know who won. But when you look at that game, for 4 quarters, it was awful. But the overtime gave me all that I needed. I just want to win it.
I thought it was a great defensive game. I was enjoying it. Now, I know a lot of people don't feel that way, but one of my favorite games ever were the Giants and Washington. That Farrakh game in '97, I think it was, ended in a 7-7 tie and in the mud. You know, that was just smash mouth, trench warfare football. I love that. I mean, I know not everyone does. I love grappling and MMA. I like slick boxing and boxing. I like technical skill or even grit, or the Pacers and the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals in '04 before the Pistons beat the Lakers. Like, a lot of people downplay and like to badmouth those kind of defensive struggles. I love it. And I got to tell you the truth, I don't mind if it ends up in a tie. Now, I know American sports, we're not used to that. Right? And I prefer American sports. I mean, we're not soccer after all, right? Where you have
I would hope you would prefer American sports.
However, I follow, I'm a boxing guy, and there are draws in boxing. Is it better when you get a winner? Yes, but these are relatively rare events in the NFL. Every now and then they crop up.
I wasn't disappointed. To win the game.
Yeah, okay, unless you tie, which happens once in a while. Unless you tie, which happens.
I like that comeback. Unless you tie. I would say this to you. First of all, I don't blame you when you bring up, the juxtaposing American sports to others, because some of those boxing events with, when you're international, I mean, it looks bananas. I got to go see one of those things. I really got to see a boxing match in London or something.
You're
like
on your
that.
way.
Hey, maybe. But here's the deal. I can't stand ties. I completely agree with you. I think it should be banned. Look, damn it. Play until you drop. I don't give a damn. Find out who won the game. Figure it out. We're going to find out about your conditioning. We're going to find out who's got it. I don't want to see a draw in boxing. I don't want to see a tie on a football field. I want a winner and a loser. I don't want to see that. By the way, after last night's game, I mean, who's this guy? Canizero or Canizaro? Whatever. I mean, you talk about it, dude. It's one of those moments where I wish Jimmy Johnson was still coaching. Jimmy Johnson does a great job. I wish he was still coaching, because that brother might not have a job this morning. He might not have had a job after the game last night. I'm just saying, how do you miss that 24-yard chip shot? It's unforgivable. Now, Oscar's different. Listen, Oscar's different. Oscar's different because he has a proven track record. It was an aberration. But Connor's, I'm going to call him Connor Zero, okay? That's what I'm going to call him. I'm going to call him Connor Zero. It is.
They put him in the position that he had to kick. It's a whole team loss.
He got a family. He got a family.
Really? I didn't say take away his money. I said take away the team. Give him the salary, put him on the exempt list. But all I'm saying to you is this. This dude, how those guys missed those chip shots, it's the greatest argument I've ever visualized that kickers should be banned from the game. Because all the stuff that y'all got to go through as football players, and then you hand it off to these dudes, and like Bruce Arians said, did you see Bruce Arians after that game? I mean, could he have been, listen, he's just like, got a job to do. Get it done. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's no question. There's no question.
Think of it, some of the greatest games in NFL history are great because of kicking. They're great because of special teams. The New York Giants and the Buffalo Bills. Why is it so good? Because we thought he was going to make
That's why I'm not going there.
But here's the thing about boxing, right? When you draw in boxing, guess who it affects? You. The same dude that was in there fighting by himself against the other guy, that just affects you. There's no league it affects.
Okay, I want to talk to that right now. On the one hand, boxing is is a contact sport, as football is a full contact sport. Harder to resolve ties in those sports because it gets dangerous after a while. Wait, one. Two, Who does it affect? The league? Actually, ties probably help differentiate teams by the end of the season. Instead of looking at teams with the exact same record and then you have to go to tie breakers, the records are likely now different because one team has a tie. If anything, it probably helps resolve
It does not
the standings
help.
at the end of the year.
It makes it easier to figure it out because numbers. But wins and
You'd rather go to a tiebreaker with
regardless.
You'd rather go to tiebreakers than a team that has one fewer or one more win because of a tie.
Yes, I do.
Max,
I don't want
that outcome.
I love the college
like
game.
the tie sometimes, but
Tell me it's not exciting to watch the college game and them boys fight and fight, and you might have to watch it for 6 hours.
Time out now. There's 162 games in baseball. If you got to go 20 innings plus to figure out an outcome, you have to do it. You know, ties. The bottom line is
not hitting each other.
All I'm saying to you is this: football, you play 16 games. Play until you drop.
And because it's 16 games, you have a lot of times at the end of the season where teams have the exact same record, the identical records. You got to go to tiebreakers. With a tie mixed in occasionally to differentiate.
What you're talking about makes no sense because everybody can tie, just like everybody can win or lose. It doesn't separate anybody.
Like playing in the playground when you're 5 years old. But
Max, because if you don't want it to happen in the playoffs, right? If you don't want it to happen in the playoffs, you ain't not gonna let people tie in the playoffs, are you? No, you're gonna play till you win the game.
Sure.
If you're not gonna let it happen in the playoffs because it can't happen, don't let it happen in the regular season.
Because the regular season is a playoff?
Don't.
All right, none of us are with Max here, but
no ties in
Raekwon
baseball,
is.
no tie in basketball.
Wait,
go ahead.
what'd Ray do?
Raekwon, we appreciate you watching the show. He had this to say to Max on Twitter. I'll try to read this tweet a little better than Ryan Clark. Much love at Max Kellerman. I hear you.
Molly, that's not the news. The news is I asked him because online they say, want to battle for cash and see who's Sun Tzu, like the writer Sun Tzu, Art of War.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was see who's sons who. And Ray cleared it up. It's see who's sons who. That's the real news.
This guy.
All right, we're going to leave it there.
He's so New York.
That, but
I'm just happy he's watching the show, so I appreciate that. Coming up next, I got to start with you, my friend over here.
But you gonna start with Kermit?
That's his version of Kermit.
Yeah, you gonna start with Kermit. Got the green.
Excuse me, Stephen A. Did the Redskins prove they are who you thought they were?
Yeah, they did. They did. Bravo again. Let me say something, man. You know, this last week is kind of, I don't want to say tough because it really doesn't faze me. I mean, Brian Mitchell and Doc Walker threw me for a little loop because I love the brothers, but, you know, they were getting on me because I had the audacity to sit up there and say that, you know what, focus on something bigger than the NFC East. I apologize. I was wrong. Maybe you should focus on just the NFC East because you're in danger of not getting that. I mean, my Lord, all of this stuff, all I did, Max, Ryan, all I did was this. I said, hey, y'all beat the Eagles, all right? And you roll out there and you're like, yo, we kings of the NFC East. But you're in second place. You lost to the first place team in the division, which is the Cowboys already. You got bigger priorities. You got Kirk Cousins that bet on himself with the franchise $19.95 million tag. You got Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson who can ball, both entering the last year of this contracts. You got Doxson who can play, okay, and he's got skills and a tremendous upside. The future could potentially be bright. Matt Jones showed us something against the Philadelphia Eagles. I like this brother. Defensively, even though they've been struggling a little bit, you got Kerrigan and the crew. They can do some things. They can get at a quarterback. And, of course, there's the great Jay Gruden because we know he's great just by his name alone. Let's be clear about that. We know that he's great. It takes time out of his busy schedule to comment about me. You know, I think it was very, very unfair. This guy has no clue about how hard we're working. Who gives a damn about hard work? It's results. We assume, far be it for me, Ryan, am I wrong in assuming that NFL players automatically work hard? I'm assuming that you work hard. I'm assuming that you're putting forth a max effort. That's what we're getting on me about now? Oh, he doesn't know how hard we work. I know you haven't been to a Super Bowl since 1991. I understand that. I think that when we're talking about that, we're going to talk about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys and how they haven't won a Super Bowl since 1995. How did we let this fly over our head that the Redskins hasn't been to a Super Bowl since 1991? And then after all that noise you made adopting the victim's mentality, talking about how dare dare he say such a thing? You go out and lose to the Detroit Lions?
Now, don't make me wrong. I think Coach Caldwell's doing a good job with them right now.
They're on the come up.
Stafford is balling. They're on the come up. There is no Megatron, but I'm going to repeat, there's no Megatron. There's no Megatron. So Matthew Stafford connected with Anquan Bolden. Love Anquan, no doubt. How old is he? I mean,
You're younger than me.
He's gonna be here soon. You understand what I'm saying? He's gonna be working on television soon, someday in the future. I mean, it ain't like he's a young stud on the come up now, and that's who beat y'all for the game-winning touchdown. I'm just saying, Redskins.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
You and I don't agree a lot on this show,
Right.
But we agree about this. Whenever I hear a coach or a player talking, like objecting to some kind of criticism based on the fact that they work hard, dummies, it's only relative to who you're playing, right? So, yeah, you're a great football team, but by NFL standards, you're a middle-of-the-pack football team. You work hard, but if that's the point, to go at someone's criticism, then what you are implicitly saying, that means for the people who make this point and don't understand it, implicitly means you're saying it without saying it, but that's really what you mean. What you're saying is that you work harder than everyone else, or else what's the point in saying you work hard? It's just, it's only relative to the other teams. So you're saying you work harder than the Giants, than the Cowboys, and then the Eagles? Is that what you're saying? Because if not, you're mediocre. That's okay. In the NFL, it's worse things of being mediocre. You're in the middle of the pack. You have a shot at the playoffs. You're 4-3, and you do have a win against the Giants, who are also 4-3, but that win could have easily gone the other way, just like your loss to the Cowboys could have easily gone the other way. Washington has certainly, and I won't even say their name, I think it's an offensive name, by the way, but Washington has certainly...
You've been consistent about that.
It's offensive. Washington has certainly been a normal kind of NFL team and has done nothing to distinguish themselves in a suddenly underrated maybe NFC East going into the season. Everyone's laughing at the NFC East. Maybe it's the best or second best division as it turns out in football at the moment. Okay, fine. There are worse things to be, but to react that way over criticism where someone correctly points out you ain't special, you haven't distinguished yourself, is ridiculous.
Well, listen, I caught it this week on Twitter thanks to you guys, right? Because it was like, hey, Ryan, why aren't you defending us? Why aren't you saying so? I said, first of all,
You said Stephen A's right.
Well, what I said was, last time I checked, when two men have a disagreement, men disagree. I said, but if they ask me on TV, I'll talk about it. So when you talk about the Washington Redskins, when you say they are who we thought they were, it just all depends on who you thought they were. If you thought they were a pretty good football team, a football team that could go 9-7, a football team that maybe ekes out a 10-6 record, then you were right. I don't think it's a bad football team. I think it's a football team that can be competitive. The issue with what you were saying was when you start talking about what people say in the tunnel and the way they feel, it seemed like they were saying more than just, we won today over the Philadelphia Eagles. It seemed like they were talking about history. So when you talk about the history of this team, especially recent history, it's nothing to boast about. It's nothing to scream about in the tunnel. Now, you know Bake just as well as I do.
Good dude.
And so Bake is excitable. If you watch him, he's the big dude. You know, he dances. He gets the crowd hype. So he was doing what he does in keeping everybody upbeat about the positive things going on in Washington. And there are some positive things. But this game told me about the Detroit Lions, right? If you look at Matthew Stafford, he said in the offseason, we may be better offensively without Calvin Johnson. I may be better, and he is, because now he spreads the ball around. Josh Norman gets hurt. Marvin Jones makes some big catches. He had the one big catch on him on which he got hurt on. The Washington Redskins are a team that, if they play really well finishing out, they may finish second in the NFC East. If they play about what I think they were, they'll finish right behind Dallas and Philadelphia. This city loves that team. That's why they hate you right now.
Well, listen, they're going to continue to hate me if they continue to lose, because I ain't going to let up. They brought the attention on themselves. They got it.
Well, you got to realize, they got Vikings, Packers, Cowboys.
Good luck with that.
Coming up.
But here's the deal. This is how stupid it got in the nation's capital. You actually had people that were accusing me, like, what you going to do? You going to fight Baker? Excuse me? Me? Have you seen the size on that boy? It's just nonsense. We were talking about debating one another about the Redskins. That's all it was. So it's all in fun. And by the way, Baker is a good dude, married to a wonderful young lady
Awesome
who
lady.
used to work here, who are friends with all of us. We got nothing but love for the Baker household. So it's just nonsense. We're just talking about football. But at the end of the day, hold on. At the end of the day, guys, it comes down to this. Y'all, it wasn't just about this or whatever. Collectively, they're acting like there's something more than they were to me. And all I'm saying is, you got to win these games, and you got to do something more than what you did.
But life is about perspective, right?
Sure.
It's about perspective. So if you're 9-7, or in that situation, if you're 4-2 and you just beat the Eagles, the team that everybody was talking about before their 2 losses to Detroit and Washington, you feel good because you got to think about where you came from. Right? So in Gruden's first year, you go 4-12, and now you win the NFC East, and you've started the season 0-2, and you run off 4 straight. That is a good start to a season.
When you're telling
that is a perspective-wise for those people. You have now won 4 games in a row and beat the team everyone was presuming was going to run away with the NFC East. So if you think about where they were and where they come, they're much more competitive.
When you're
than
telling
they were.
their story, you can do it that way. Or you can tell the story of the Detroit Lions and Matthew Stafford, who, by the way, you know, after looking like a top 5 talent at the position for years and years, maybe he didn't have the arm talent. He had the arm strength, but maybe not the talent to get it done, even though he put up big numbers. Over the last year now, I would say, full season, if you take the second half of last season and the first half so far, he is balling. And maybe it's not the story of Washington. Maybe it's the story of the Detroit Lions. If you look at Stafford, NFL ranks in pass completion percentage, passing yards, yards per attempt, yards per dropback. He's top 10 in everything, top 5 in a bunch of
them. That's his 24th game-winning drive as well, though.
Yeah, in the fourth quarter.
He likes it there.
Last point. Washington Redskins, I think they're a very, very talented bunch who can make some noise in the NFC. I don't believe their target should be just about the NFC East. That's why I said, what have you done? You understand? And yes, I'm assuming, because you're running into the tunnel, I wasn't there. Of course I'm assuming. Who the hell doesn't know I'm assuming? I'm on national television. They're at the game. Okay? Of course I'm assuming, based on your reactions, that you're making something more out of nothing. That's my belief. I believe they should be better than what they are, but I also believe they're